Today, I am going to talk about my book that is a year old now called the Mind Gardening Handbook. And everyone here today gets a free copy. Yay! So, yay! And even if you have one, you get another one. And I also have them for sale on the back, so if you want to buy one or two for friends, and I'm happy to sign them also today. But I have to tell you, I wrote this book called the Mind Gardening Handbook, 4 Steps to Cultivate an Inspired Life. I wrote it basically, I'm also, besides being a spiritual minister, I also am a life coach. And I have clients that aren't necessarily into spirituality. So I wanted to give them a really simple formula for how things happen in the world, how we create. Basically what is known as the law of attraction, which everybody has heard of. So I made this really simple little book. I got it published, and it's very cool. And when it came in the box, when I got all 100 of them that I ordered, it came in the box, I took it out, and I was like, oh, it's so small. It's just so small. That's it. And I caught myself. My worthiness, my deservability, all that came up. Believe me, if you've ever written a book, Joy, I'm sure you know that. And if you've ever done anything creative, and I had a dance company most of my life, and boy, it's so small. And then I remembered Emmett Fox, The Golden Key. You think my book is small. Written in 1931. Great little pamphlet. And then my mentor and one of my teachers, Reverend Karen Russo, wrote Grow Yourself, Grow Your Wealth. That's small. Mine's bigger. Anyway, I just wanted to share that because it's just so funny how my mind went immediately to, oh, it's not good enough. Not true. So in this little book, I created these 4 steps that are basically universal principles. They're things that I've learned through all my metaphysical teaching, training, through Ernest Holmes, through anybody you can name. I've been through it all. And they all basically say the same thing. So I just put it into a really simple formula that anyone can understand. And first of all, I mentioned that you are a creative genius. Each of you. You each are creative geniuses because we all create something every day, every moment of our life, right? And how do we do that? We do it by planting seeds. Seeds of intention, seeds of thought, seeds of attention. And here at the Foothill Center, we're planting a really big new seed in our new home. So are you ready to be a master gardener of your life?
Yes.
Yes.
No? Okay.
Yes.
Because as a gardener, we know there's an idea that is concealed in the seed, and as it's loosened into action, it becomes a plant, right? So how many gardeners are in here? Raise your hand. Yeah, I mean, you planted something in your life, right? So consider this. If you could have a new idea or a new thought about an old condition or belief that you have, what would that new idea be, that new thought? It just opens the door of possibilities. So when we get stuck, I find for myself, when I get stuck or I get up against a door, anybody ever have that? That I can say, what would be a new idea around this for me? What's a new thought? Instead of, again, with this center, it can't be done. What if our move is really not that hard? Think how that lightens it up. So whatever you're struggling with in your life or going through that you feel stuck or hitting a wall, just start asking that question. What else is possible? Isn't that what Reverend Sarah said? What else is possible? Because it lifts us up into a higher understanding, a higher consciousness. So you may have heard of the creative process. It's a principle of life. It's the way in which the universe works. Now, I'm not going to read all this verbatim, but I'm going to just refer to it. It's a process by which our thoughts, beliefs, and decisions of our subconscious mind become our life experiences. I know you've heard this before, but you're going to hear it again. It's even referred to in the Bible, it is done unto you as you believe. Believe's the operative word there. We can say all the affirmations in the world we want, but if there's a part of us deep inside that does not believe we are worthy, that thing will not appear. You know, the famous Napoleon Hill wrote a book called Think and Grow Rich. Have you heard of that?
Yes.
And he said something like, if the mind can conceive it and believe it, it will receive it. But the operative word there is believe it. Because so many times, I don't know about you, but I've realized that I just don't really believe it. I don't believe it can happen. So, this law is called the law, with a big capital L. I fought the law and the law won. That's the truth. It's the law of cause and effect. It's the law of attraction. It's the law of mind. It's not a human law. It's a spiritual law. And remember gold nuggets today. And also you're going to have a test in the end. And this law acts impartially. No one is exempt from it. The law of mind is just like the laws in nature. The soil accepts the seed, and you put it in the soil, and it grows. So consider this. If you plant a watermelon seed, what are you going to get?
Watermelon.
Right. You're not going to get a cucumber. Oh, come on, cucumber. Come on. You can get out of that watermelon. No. So the soil knows how to take a seed and make a plant from it. It doesn't care what you're planting. It doesn't care. It's impersonal. It just obeys you. So we, in our daily lives, are dealing with the law of mind. So it knows how to create without knowing what it creates. It just frankly doesn't care. It just will create whatever you keep planting. So whatever you keep affirming, I'm sick, I'm upset, I'm worried, I'm poor, I'm never do this, I can never have that, blah, 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 blah. Anybody ever do that to themselves? So those are seeds you're planting. We just want to pay attention to that. The good news is we can decide and choose to plant something different. I like that. So God's seeds of worry, doubt, and fear, well, guess what? You're just going to get more of it. So our founder, Ernest Holmes, in The Science of Mind said, conscious thought is the starting point of every new creation. Trained thought is far more powerful than untrained, since the admission that thought is power gives it added power. So we learn here in The Science of Mind at the Foothill Center how to, with practices and classes and tools, how to train our thoughts and do what we call mind our mind. Mind your mind, right? Think a new thought, plant a new seed. So I have formulated this idea into what I call the GRACE formula. And the reason I kind of did this was because for many, many years, I started out as a dancer at a very young age. I would give dance plays in my basement with nobody watching. But I would put on a record player, remember those? With Swan Lake. And oh my God, and I was every part. I was the prince, I was the princess, I was the whatever they are, and I had this fantasy and I would dance it all. And then I gradually I took ballet lessons all through my grade school, high school, into college. I went into modern dance, blah, 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 blah. And I became a professional modern dancer. I had my own dance company, I lived in New York, I did the whole thing, I toured. But I was told early on that, oh, you need to get a real job because dancers don't make any money. Oh, okay. So I attached that and wore it as a badge called Starving Artist. And I proudly wore that badge for a long time. And you know what that badge did for me? Zero. It made me not have funds, not get the grants I needed. I paid my dancers before I paid myself. I struggled a lot. But after I learned about the law of attraction, after I studied metaphysics more, I realized that that wasn't serving me. And so I started changing my mind and planting new seeds. And once I did, I went from a starving artist to a thriving artist. And look at me now. I'm a minister. Now, where did that come from? I don't know. Yet, I know that I've been led here for a reason. So what badge are you wearing these days? And is it serving you? Take a breath with that. And if you're having difficulty, contact a practitioner. Amada and I are always available to support you. And also, you don't have to contact a practitioner just when things are low. I call my practitioner every week and just get that affirmation and remind me of who I am. Remind me of who I am. So, have you ever heard of Abraham Hicks?
Yes.
That whole, yeah. So they say, within the seed of your desire is everything necessary for it to blossom to fulfillment. And the law of attraction is the engine that does the work. Your work is to just give it a fertile growing place in order to expand. So it's up to us to fertilize the soil. And I always tell my clients, you don't have to know how to make it happen. You have to know how to make it welcome. And that's the feeling tone, the heart of making it welcome before it's seen, right? So the grace formula, we set the power in motion, the law produces the effect. We plant the seed, but the law will produce the plant. So the grace formula is, weed, plant, nourish, and harvest. And again, this is, Ernest Holmes talks about this in length in the textbook, and many metaphysical people talk about this. But I created it as the grace formula, again, because I wanted to make it simple. Kind of like the that book for dummies, they call it, like, you know, those books they make for dummies, yeah. Not that you're dumb. So weed and seed, you can either water the weeds or water the seeds. What do you choose? Do you want to water those weeds? Doubt, fear, and worry, and lack, and limitation. I'm not good enough. I'll never get there. Nothing ever happens to my life. On and on and on and on. Boy, we have a lot of those. I don't know about you. So Florence Scovel Shinn, try to say that, wrote this in 1925. She was a great metaphysical writer. If you ever can find some of her books, highly recommend her. She said, whatever you plant in your mind, you will eventually manifest in the outside world. Your mind is the rich soil, your thoughts are the seeds, your action is the water, and your feelings and attention are the light and the sun. I love that, so beautiful. So the first one is weeding. So those of you that are gardeners know that you can't plant a seed in a garden before first you have to weed. You have to get the weeds out, right? Otherwise, they're just not going to grow. So the weeds are negative thoughts, are negative old habits, behaviors, and beliefs in our mind. Excuse me. Weeding involves removing those old patterns and being willing is a good word, to make a change. So I often coach also my clients, and if you can't say something in an affirmation, you can say, I am willing to become a better whatever. Because willingness opens the door in your consciousness to possibilities. So just know that willingness is a really good beginning tool. And then, of course, have some outside support if you really get stuck. So weeding, there's a story that I wrote in here about how circus elephants are trained. And you may know this. From a very young age, there's a shackle put around their ankle. And it's 6 foot long. So the little elephant only goes 6 feet and then it has to stop. So no matter where it goes, it just goes 6 feet and then it has to stop, right? So eventually, as the elephant matures, the shackle's removed. And, not surprisingly, the unshackled elephant only goes about 6 feet and stops. Doesn't have a shackle on it. You get the idea?
Yeah.
Why? Why don't they go any further?
Training.
Training. Because the mind has been conditioned to that limitation. This is good food for thought, isn't it? Because we can really look back on what is limiting me? What's that little shackle? So do you have an old limiting belief that may be holding you back? So in the book, there's spaces for you to write down things. And it's important to write. And I also suggest that you don't write it in the book because you'll want to use this over and over, but have a little journal that you would write. But once you write, it uses a different part of your brain, so it's really important to actually write these things out. So, I invite you to affirm with me, I gratefully pull up the old weeds of doubt, worry, and fear.
I gratefully pull up the old weeds of worry, doubt, and fear.
And I make room for new seeds of possibilities.
And I make room for new seeds of possibilities.
Take a breath. Because this is going to be your homework later today or tomorrow, or sometime this week when you get your book. The second in the GRACE formula is planting. So what seeds do you want to plant? Seeds of imagination, seeds of possibility, seeds of new ideas. And remember, you can't harvest your good if you don't plant the seed. How many times have I asked people, so what is it that you really want? And they don't know. So you want to be very specific because you can't harvest it if you don't plant the seed. And remember, the law always says yes. So think about, what do you want? What do I want? So in the book, after you've written down your old beliefs, then you write down its opposite in a more positive way. So for instance, if I wrote down in my weeds that I just work too hard, my life is hard, my seed that I might plant could be, I'm willing to know my life is in the flow. And just write something that's kind of the opposite of it. So let's affirm together. I gratefully pay attention to the direction of my thinking.
I gratefully pay attention to the direction of my thinking.
And I plant only those seeds that move me in that direction.
And I plant only those seeds that move me in that direction.
Of my desires and dreams.
Of my desires and dreams.
Today I plant the seed of.
Today I plant the seed of.
Close your eyes, think about what that is. Visualize yourself planting it. Yeah. Then the third step is nourishing or nurturing. Oh, in the book it's called nurturing. Huh. Okay. Have you ever heard of the saying, the grass is greener on the other side?
Yes.
Well, why do you think the grass is greener? Because it's being watered. So that's the nurturing and nourishing part. We have to nurture the soil in order for the plant to grow and flourish. So the soil in the garden doesn't reject what's planted. It doesn't say, oh, you can't plant lettuces this year. The soil, again, job is to just accept it and begin to create a likeness of the seed it was given. Think about an acorn. I just love that reminder. That little acorn has within it the idea and the possibility of a giant oak tree waiting to be released. So there's a seed in you of something magnificent and great that's just waiting for you to recognize it. So we need to strengthen our spiritual root system, that's what I call it, by doing practices that will bring us peace, harmony, and clarity. And we empower the seed with gratitude, always staying on the lookout for those insects of negative thinking. And don't beat ourselves up when we find them. Like I did when I was like, oh, it's so small. What's that guy's name that's on PBS, Dr. Amen. You might have seen some of his specials. He has a thing called ants. You got to get rid of the ants. Automatic negative thoughts. And you replace them with PATs, positive, automatic thoughts. So we can always make a course correction, can't we? I mean, that's what we teach here, how to shift, how to pivot our attention. What are we paying attention to? It's like in the world today. All I hear from everybody, nobody gets along, there's so much division. Yes, that's true, but if we keep repeating it and not have that idea of, how can I contribute to understanding that people have different opinions than me? Or however you want to do it, but instead of keep affirming that we're divided, why not affirm that somehow we're going to be united? I don't know how. We're called the United States. So then you'll write some things, and let's affirm, I gratefully do my inner work through my heart.
I gratefully do my inner work through my heart
And consciousness.
and consciousness
To nurture and nourish my life.
to nurture and nourish my life.
Are you willing to do the inner work?
Yes.
And if not, again, work with a practitioner. And then the last part of the grace formula is you get to harvest your good. Yay! Bravo! Your new experience may be on the way. May not show up in your timing, but there's what we call divine timing. Right? The plan is coming into full expression if you believe it is. Again, we're going to go back to that. Check those beliefs. And remember that all crops have different growing cycles, so you don't want to force it. Patience may be required, but you can be assured that the potential for your harvest has been planted, and if you're nurturing it well, it will produce. So I know you gardeners, you don't plant something and water it, and then you notice it's not coming up. You don't go into the soil and dig it and say, well, how come you're not growing? What's going on? You don't disturb it. You let it rest in the dark and trust that it's going to show itself into the light. It has to. It's the law. I fought the law and the law won. So I invite you to be open to unlimited possibilities for your life and stay in gratitude. So let's say together, I gratefully receive and share my good and my life is blessed.
I gratefully receive and share my good, and my life is blessed.
I say yes to positive expectations. Thank you, life.
I say yes to positive expectations. Thank you, life.
Take a breath with that. So that's what my big book is about. My big, heavy book. You might need to take 5, 10 of them in order to make it. I'm grateful that I did this, and it's just the start, and enjoy your book, and let's take